Hi, and welcome to the Department of Environmental Health and Engineering graduate program open house. My name is Kieran Harmon. I'm an assistant professor here in the Department of Environmental Health and Engineering. And I'm going to be talking to you today about our graduate programs. Standing by, we have a panel of students who are graduate students in the program. And they are going to be answering questions and providing a student perspective on our program. So to get started, I thought we should introduce them. So hello, graduate students. Let's go across the panel and you guys can introduce yourselves, starting with Andrea.
Hey, I'm Andrea. I'm a third-year PhD student. I work with Dr. Sarah Prehan. My background's in civil engineering, and now I work on stormwater management and microbiology.
Hi, my name is Raquel. I was a Hopkins undergrad and I moved into the Master's of Health Science program at the Bloomberg School of Public Health, focusing on population health.
My name is Shane Putnam. I am a six-year PhD student. I am a proud Vermonter, and I work with Kieran Harmon and mainly focus on understanding how landscape structure controls transport across scales.
Hi, my name is Christina, and I am a master's student studying environmental engineering in the combined bachelor's and master's program.
So today I want to talk to you about Johns Hopkins University, where we're now sitting, introduce you to this Department of Environmental Health and Engineering, and talk about the opportunities that we have here and the graduate programs. And as I said, at the end, there'll be a Q&A where we can answer some of your questions. So let's get started. So here we are at Johns Hopkins University. For the last almost 40 years, Hopkins has led the US in higher education in research. We are one of the largest recipients, if not the largest recipient of federal research money in the US. Zooming in, within Johns Hopkins, there is the Whiting School of Engineering, which is where I'm now sitting right now. And the Whiting School of Engineering has graduate programs from civil engineering, mechanical engineering, biomedical engineering, and a variety of others. And you have a lot of students and a lot of faculty. On another campus that's about a few miles away down the road in East Baltimore is the Bloomberg School of Public Health, which is also part of Johns Hopkins University, which has a whole other set of graduate programs and academic departments with research going on in 130 countries all around the world. The Environmental Health and Engineering Department is a department that sits with a foot in each one of those two schools. So it has a foot in the Public Health School, and it has a foot in the it has a foot in the engineering, the Whiting School of Engineering. It was formed by the merger of two departments, the Environmental Health Sciences and the Department of Geography and Environmental Engineering, a couple of years ago. And by linking these two departments, it provides a really quite unique entity, an entity that spans, that bridges public health and engineering. In our academic programs, we have our graduate programs in the engineering side, in geography and environmental engineering. We have an undergraduate program in environmental engineering, and we have environmental health science graduate and certificate programs that are based over in the public health school. So there are programs going on in both schools within one department. We collaborate in terms of research with people all over the world, both on the academic side at many other universities, within Hopkins in the Applied Physics Laboratory, in the School of Medicine, in the Krieger School of Arts and Sciences, and others. And also with industry, with various engineering firms, particularly here in the Engineering College. The school gets funding from all the major funding sources: National Science Foundation, Department of Energy, various Bloomberg philanthropies, the World Bank, EPA, and others. So as I said, if you have any questions along the way, or if you're a little confused about some of the structure of this department that sort of spans two schools, feel free to post a question about that in the comments, or just stay tuned and I'll explain a little more as we go along. Okay, so let's talk about the graduate programs, which is presumably why you're listening to this. Our graduate programs are, at the moment, within this one department, still separate. We have a graduate program in the engineering side, and we have a graduate program in the public health side. And I'm going to talk about each of those separately. So let's start with the graduate programs on the engineering side. Our master's programs that in the Whiting School of Engineering there are 3 programs you can go into. The MSc, which is the Master of Science in Engineering, the MS, which is a Master of Science, and an MA. The MS has various concentrations that you can see there in different sorts of areas. The MS has concentrations in environmental science or environmental science and policy, and the MA is open to students with undergraduate degrees in social sciences or humanities. The engineering, the MSc and the MS concentrations in particular are really looking for students with a strong background in math and science, strong grades, and an interest in being leaders in their current program and in the future. The admissions committee that will be looking at the applications for these different concentrations are really looking for the whole package. We're not just looking at your GRE. Some students are like, what's the minimum GRE score that I need to get in? And it doesn't really work like that. There isn't a minimum. Well, I should say, it's not some score that really matters. It's the whole package of your transcripts, your statement of purpose, your letters of recommendation, because they paint the whole picture of somebody who is looking to be a leader in the environmental field in the future. And that's what we want, and that's who we're trying to train and attract. So what are these 3 sort of degrees and what makes them different from each other? Why would you choose one or the other? The MSc, which is our accredited Master of Science in Engineering degree. As I said, it's a more structured degree. It gives you a set of courses to take that will then lead to an accreditation degree, an accredited degree from MHEC. The MS is a Master of Science degree that is open to anybody who has either a BS or a BSc. So as long as you have a solid scientific training and quantitative training, you can go to the MS. You can take all the same courses of someone taking an MSc. But you won't get the accreditation, but you can get all of that same training. So even if you don't have an undergraduate engineering degree, you can still get the MS from the engineering school with all the same training as somebody going through the MSc. But you also have the flexibility to really tailor your education to your needs. You can take a lot more different courses from a variety of areas, including courses from the engineering school, and courses from the public health school, and courses from across the rest of the university. So you really get to tailor it to your own needs. One question that people often have is, can I apply for the master's, get the master's, and then transition into PhD? That's certainly possible. It's no guarantee if you come into the master's program that you will be accepted into the PhD program. But certainly many of our students who come in as PhD get a master's along the way. Student panel, did any of you get a master's along the way as part of getting a PhD, or came in to do a master's?
Yeah, so I was accepted as a PhD student and earned an MS along the way. And I actually took the courses that you would take to get an MSc, but also had that flexibility, as you mentioned.
I also got an MS. My background's in civil engineering, but I came here to focus more on public health. So taking the MS allowed me to take more classes at the School of Public Health and in engineering as well. So I found it really beneficial. And that's why I was in the PhD.
Fantastic. So over on the public health side, they have different programs. And when you're applying for our master's programs, you have to choose, are you going to apply on the engineering side, or are you going to apply on the public health side? And depending on which one you're applying to, you will end up mainly spending most of your time on one campus or another. So if you're applying for the engineering side, you'll be on the Homewood campus. If you're applying on the public health side, you'll be sort of based on in the East Baltimore campus. But as Andrea said, you can take courses on either side. Over on the public health side, they have 3 degrees you can take: an MHS, a Master of Health Science, SCN, which is a Master of Science in Environmental Health, and an MSPH, which is a Master of Science in Public Health and a Master of Science in Public Health. The MHS is a department-based degree program that is designed to provide sort of a foundation for further academic training in a PhD program or in medical school, as well as to prepare you for like positions in government agencies and NGOs and that sort of thing. The Master of Science in Environmental Health is more of a degree that's for people who are interested in having hands-on experiences that would lead them to prominent careers in public health research. The students going into the MHS program can complete an internal application to transfer to SCM down the road if they prefer. And the MSPH is a degree program that's designed for students who are really looking for a career in public health. It's more of a professional degree. It provides a sort of a foundation in core public health disciplines while also allowing you to develop more specialized skills in your particular area of interest. And the MSPH includes an internship requirement for a minimum of 4 months. Just to give you a little more detail on that, here are the 3 types again, as I said: MHS, SCM, and MSPH. The MHS, more of the academic side to train you for further graduate programs or for PhDs. The SCM, more of a research-based program. And the MSPH, more of a professional degree that will give you practical skills and experience through that internship to jet you out into a career, into a job in the industry. Now, some questions that people often ask are, can I apply for the master's program at the public health school and transfer to the PhD program? Again, as I said with the engineering, you can't transfer directly from one to the other unless you're sort of already accepted into the PhD program. But you can certainly complete the master's and then apply for the PhD program. But it is the PhD program in the public health school, very competitive. So there's certainly no guarantees. So let me ask on our student panel, Raquel, you're currently in the MHS program. Why did you choose the MHS rather than the SCM or the MSPH?
So I was in my junior year of college here at Hopkins, and that's kind of when we had the opportunity to apply as undergrads to go straight into kind of like a 5-year BA MHS. And I chose the MHS because I wanted kind of, like you said, that foundation before going to medical school since I was pre-med. And the SCM is a 2-year program, whereas the MHS is a 1-year program. So I wanted something a little more short term because I wasn't sure I wanted that lab component during my 2nd year.
I see. And some of you have taken who are not based on the East Baltimore campus, but are instead based here. You've still taken classes over in East Baltimore. I think Andrea, you said you had done that. Can you tell us a little bit about what that experience is like, being based here on Homewood but taking classes over there?
I think it was a really nice opportunity. So I'll say, if you come here, you can do a pretty structured engineering program, but if you're interested in taking more of the public health courses, there are opportunities to take the MS and get some of your coursework from the School of Public Health. And I also did a certificate that I felt was kind of more related to my career goals. So taking a few classes, there's a lot of different applications you can imagine that you're just kind of open to explore. Even if you don't get a certificate, at least taking a course or 2 is very accessible.
Can you tell us what courses you took over there?
List some examples. I took water use and reuse, which is offered in the environmental more on the public health side of our department. I took, it's called Tropical Water and Sanitation, which is a requirement for a fellowship program I'm in. And then I also took some outside of the environmental health department in order to get the certificate in kind of evaluation of different public health programs. Some in even communication, which I found really informative and just helpful.
Fantastic. Has anybody else taken classes over there? No? Well, obviously, yeah. Well, okay, well, tell us this, Raquel, what's been your favorite class that you've taken so far?
My favorite class was an infectious disease class, a tropical infectious disease class. It was probably my first class at Bloomberg, and the professors were so helpful, so welcoming, and so passionate that I think that's one of the main reasons why I just fell in love with the class.
Fantastic. Well, Shane and Christina, why don't I get you guys to chime in? What was your favorite class on the engineering side that you've taken? Feel free to say mine.
Actually, I really do like your class. I enjoyed the hydrologic transport in the environment offered in the spring. Kind of piggybacks off of the foundation of hydrology and goes more in depth into the quantitative analysis. So that was really interesting, yeah.
Great. What about you, Shane?
I guess for me, my favorite class was maybe ecology with one of our professors in the department. It was really fun because we got to go outside and actually identify trees and try to relate the trees to the landscape structure and also the hydrologic environment as well. So, or just like the soil moisture conditions, I guess.
Fantastic. All right, let's move on. So, of course, as I said, we have our PhD program. If you're interested in the PhD program, you need to be aware that there are two PhD programs. One here in the Whiting School of Engineering and one over in the Public Health School. And if you go through those programs, your degree will come from either the Whiting School of Engineering or the Public Health School. You get to choose which one you want to go into. You have to apply to them separately. Over in the Public Health School, they actually have two tracks within their PhD program, one in toxicology, physiology, and molecular mechanisms, and the other in exposure sciences and environmental epidemiology. Within the department as a whole, we recently went through an exercise in trying to list all of the research areas that our various 80-something faculty are interested in. And we came up with a rather substantial list. As you can see from here, from this slide, and from this slide, we couldn't fit it all on one slide. We cover a lot of ground. Rather than go through all of these different areas of study and research individually, I just wanted to focus on 2 or 3 of them that are highlighted there in red. So within the area of risk sciences and public policy, there's quite a few faculty working in this area. 3 of them are listed here. Keith Nachman, who's on the public health side, is an assistant professor who works on sort of food production and public health and the relationships between the way we create food, the way we grow food, and the risks and benefits that come from, that are associated with things like the use of antibiotics in animal production and that sort of thing. Ben Hobbs is a professor here on the engineering side who focuses on systems analysis and decision making. So when we take large, complicated systems like a power grid, how do we understand that that system in such a way that we're able to make sensible decisions about things like how could we restructure it to optimize our future in renewable energy? How would we make a renewable energy centric power grid? Paul Ferraro is also a professor here on the engineering side, who also has a joint appointment in the Carey Business School. And he is a professor of water and environmental economics. Economics, of course, being so important for the way we make decisions in the world today. Paul is particularly well known for his interest in and his work in experimental behavioral economics, which is very different from the kind of economics you'll learn about in a classical economics class. Rather than simply assuming that people are sort of these utility maximizing, self-interested machines, he asks, how do we actually make decisions. You know, if we are given a piece of renewable, a piece of, say, water-saving technology, how do we actually use it? And what are the actual benefits that are realized when something is actually used in the real world? To answer that kind of question, he designs and conducts controlled experimental trials of economic interventions, which is something very different from what you'll get anywhere else. So really exciting stuff. If you come and do a degree here in the, well, really in either program, but particularly here on the engineering side, I think you can get a lot of training in the sort of systems analysis and economics, and over the public health side, a lot of, in addition, a lot of training in things like the risk analysis. And so here, in terms of systems analysis, some applications of that kind of of the kind of training you would get would be things like pollution management, water resources management, integrated assessment of climate policy and impacts, and energy infrastructure and that sort of thing. In terms of risk analysis, if you're interested in more sort of public health risks, you can get training in things like how to evaluate new technologies, how to understand and deal with natural and man-made disasters, and how to evaluate chemical, microbiological, and radiological exposure. And on the economic side, you can get a solid training in how to apply principles of economics to is the sort of earthy side of the department, which is where I sit. So thinking about things like geomorphology, geochemistry, hydrology, environmental chemistry, microbiology, and ecology. And the three people who are interested in that, myself, Professor Kellogg Schwab over in the Public Health School, and Professor Sarah Preheim here in the Whiting School of Engineering. And we're really interested in sort of the processes that occur at the Earth's surface that control the quality of our environment and that influence public health. So for instance, things like the physical dynamics of freshwater systems, the fate and transport of pathogenic microorganisms, the way that nutrients and water are transmitted through the landscape, the way that floods and droughts operate and are influenced by climate variability. All of these things are sort of areas of interest and study here. I wanted to just, take an opportunity to talk a little bit about my own research and give you a flavor of the kind of things that I do. Obviously, I'm a professor. I love talking about what I do. So let me give you this example. So here is a stream. This is actually a stream that runs into a water supply reservoir here in Baltimore. Just north of Baltimore. And it looks a little green and murky, but it's actually very clear. It's just got a bit of algae growing on the bottom. And this is a picture taken on a summer's day. And the question I want to ask you is, how old is the water in this stream? And you might be saying to yourself, what does that mean? I mean, how old is it? Like, when were the molecules first created? Like maybe millions of years ago, or maybe yesterday, who knows? I mean, it's sort of, I don't know. Let's say that age is the time since the water last fell from the sky. So we'll sort of imagine a drop of rain falling on the landscape, and we're trying to follow that parcel of water as it makes its way through the landscape and finally passes us standing next to the bank of the stream. How old is that water if it was born when it fell out of the sky and it's passing us now? You might say, I don't know, maybe it depends. Well, let's say it's summer, and let's say it last rained about a week ago. What do you guys think on the student panel? Shane, you're not allowed to answer because you know the answer already.
I've already answered this one before.
How old do you think the water is?
I think it depends.
That's always the best answer to a question like this. Raquel, what do you think?
I'm going to say it depends as well.
Be bold. Come on. Stake a claim. What do you think?
Just guess. It's not that high pressure.
If you know the answer, then well. like this.
I don't want to.
I think it's millions of years old.
Millions of years. Really
Yeah.
gone for the upper bound.
Yeah.
Well, when I ask this question, usually people typically tend to answer maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month, on average. In fact, if you are in the Piedmont region, which we are sitting in now, the crystalline Piedmont, it's about 12 years. If you're out on the Delmarva Peninsula, which is the sort of the sandy sediments across the Chesapeake Bay and in the coastal plain, it's more like 20 years. So the water in streams is very old. And this is because what we see in the stream is not simply rain that has fallen and run across the landscape into the stream. In fact, when it rains, the rain percolates into the soil and pushes. It pressurizes the water that's underground. And by pushing down, it forces the water that's underground into the stream. And so the stream flow that we see is water that has taken a long pathway, pushed by many storms before it finally reaches the stream. And why do we care about this? Well, we care about this because the water quality that we see in our streams can reflect not just the current, present day things that are happening in the landscape, but a legacy of everything that's happened in the past. And so, for instance, the nitrate loads that we see coming out of streams going into Chesapeake Bay can reflect nitrate loading into the landscape from excess fertilizer, going back 10, 20 years. So that affects how we might approach the mitigation of those effects. My research group uses a variety of techniques. We do field work, we do numerical modeling. Here's some field equipment, a weather station, and an auto sampler that actually Shane set up in our field site north of Baltimore. We also do a lot of numerical modeling. So here's some numerical modeling of watershed flow and transport processes that are done by one of my other PhD students, Dano Willis. So I want to turn now to our student panel and get a little more insight into what the students' experience is like here. So let's just start with Andrea on the left. You probably had a lot of other great choices for grad school. Why did you choose Hopkins?
Why did I pick Hopkins? When I was applying to schools, I was looking for kind of this connection to human health. So schools with either like strong medical programs, and I wasn't really aware of this merger. I kind of lined up at the right time, but it kind of sealed the deal for why I wanted to come here. Also, this was a place that at least once you're interested, if you're accepted, they actually bring you down here to the city and to see the program and meet everybody. And after you meet a couple of people, you can see that it's really it's a great place to be, at least for me. So.
Great. Raquel, how about you?
Yeah, I visited the School of Public Health when I was an undergrad here. And I spoke to some of the heads of the departments and the professors, and each person I spoke to was so passionate about the work they were doing that I realized that that's something I wanted. I knew I liked public health. I wasn't sure exactly what field of public health I was interested in. And through talking with various professors in different areas of research, I kind of narrowed it down, and that's how I chose environmental health.
What about you, Shane?
I would actually largely came because of you. But so I was kind of interested in the ability in the department and in what you were proposing to do, in being able to do both field work and lab work and expand my skills in modeling and data analysis. Mm-hmm. And I think the department had the resources for that and was very supportive of doing this kind of multifaceted research. And also, as Andrea said, when I came to visit, just the feel of the department and the feel of the university felt like the right fit. It was very friendly and welcoming. So.
Great. And Christina?
So I was actually an undergrad here in the department, and I'm just continuing in the master's program. And I think the one thing that I really liked about it was that the professors are really passionate about their areas of expertise. And so they really do care about the students' learning experience. And for me, that was a really big deal breaker to stay here at Hopkins.
Fantastic. Well, can a couple of you perhaps talk about your area of study or research, and what you perhaps want to do after you graduate? I'll let you answer as the spirit moves you. Who'd like to talk about what they do?
Yeah, so I've done research in a couple of different fields. I am currently working on a project with Dr. Lawrence Cheskin from the Weight Management Center, and we're looking at obesity in Baltimore's adult Hispanic population. Mm-hmm. So this really gave me the opportunity to work in the field, conduct focus groups, learn about what the community needs, what it lacks, what it wants. And it's been an overall really positive experience. It taught me a lot about the research process that I think I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't do research. If I just took a class on it, I don't know if I would have really grasped everything that goes into conducting a project. And over the summer, I worked with my public health advisor in the Department of Environmental Health, and we looked at antimicrobial resistance in the Chesapeake Bay. And that also gave me the chance to do field work. We went out to different locations on the bay, and did some data analysis and it was actually in conjunction with the Homewood department as well. So it was a great pairing of the two campuses.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Somebody else?
I could say that, so coming here is like nice to broaden my engineering skills. And then I'm interested in kind of like community-driven stormwater management projects. So being a PhD student, it really builds your investigative side. I was also able to explore community projects and public health aspects over at the other school. So hope to apply that when I graduate.
Fantastic. Christina, can I put you on the spot and ask you to talk a little bit about the research that we've been doing together?
Sure. So this is like a project that kind of started last semester, and we got more in depth into this semester, and we incorporate SWOT. It's the Soil Water Assessment Tool, and we are looking into coupling that with the RSAS function in order to assess or accurately assess how the nitrate moves through a watershed. And so we are currently investigating this sort of thing. It's kind of like using like a hydrologic modeling tool, and it's really interesting because it's a little bit different from like field work you would do with hydrology research.
Yeah, so you've been pulling together lots of data sets to look at the nitrogen transport through the Chesterville branch watershed over on the Eastern Shore. Great stuff. All right, and so let's talk about things you do outside of class. So beyond the classroom, beyond the research lab, how do you get out professionally into conferences and doing presentations? And then how do you relax and do other things around the campus and around the city? Shane, I didn't ask you about the research area, so why don't you start us off on that sort of thing?
In terms of like professional development, I've given presentations at a lot of national conferences since I've started here. For the last 4 years, I've gone to the American Geophysical Union Conference, thanks to Kieran, and have also given presentations at more local conferences. There's a bunch of local research networks like the Baltimore Ecosystem Study, so I collaborate with them some and like to go to their conferences. Yeah, so I think in terms of professional development, that's what I've done a lot of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Andrea, have you gone to conferences, and how does that contribute to your professional development and your experience as a graduate student?
Conferences are good for networking and at least finding people that are interested in your research. I haven't been to many conferences, but now that I have my more defined thesis, it's kind of where I hope to branch out into next.
Has the proximity to DC and the proximity to sort of the centers of decision making and all the nonprofits and all that sort of thing that are around in the Baltimore and DC area, has that been a benefit to any of you? Have you sort of interacted with any of those organizations?
So I know I just spoke, but yeah, so I actually go to seminars at the United States Geological Survey. There's a center that's the Maryland DC Water Center for them, and also their national office. I've been there before to do some to learn about their trace gas analysis. I volunteer with 2 different nonprofits, so there's a lot of nonprofits in the area. Yeah, so I think that that's definitely been.
Mm-hmm. I've also been volunteering with a nonprofit organization called Blue Water Baltimore since I was a freshman here, and there's a lot of volunteering opportunities like every weekend, practically the entire year.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, what about moving on from that? What about things like the student life and clubs and activities on campus, and then around town?
Yeah, so at the School of Public Health, we have a winter ball in 2 weeks. So the school definitely provides ways to de-stress. We have mindful weeks where they provide well-being classes and meditation and yoga just to make sure that the students are in a healthy mental place as well. And even outside of like what the school offers that's free, Baltimore is very rich in delicious food, exercise groups. There's lots of like young, like 20s groups for like skating and yoga and running. So if you look for it, there's tons of things you can become involved in and meet people through. That's not just school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In terms of, so here at the Homewood campus, there's the GRO, the Graduate Student Organization, and they have coffee hour every Monday, which is a nice time to get out of your office or lab and go socialize with other graduate students. They also have a happy hour like every other Thursday, I believe. I think they had one last night, which is, again, they provide beer and other non-alcoholic beverages, and you get to socialize with other graduate students. The gym's really great. It's very new. There's a rock wall, which I've used quite a few times. There's a swimming pool. And then outside of Hopkins, I'm a part of a running club last night, and I'm still in pain from it. I did yoga. I rock climb, and I also really enjoy backpacking and hiking. And there's a lot of that in the surrounding area.
I'm amazed you still get so much research done, Shane. Yeah, fantastic. Mm-hmm.
So at least the neighborhood around the Homewood campus, there's quite a bit of food options, some popular streets. There's also a shuttle that can take you it's a free shuttle that can take you to any of, I guess, the areas where things are going on in the city, at least a few of them. And so we're here in Homewood. You can go down to an area called Mount Vernon if you want to do your research. There's a lot of food, activities going out. And then over towards the public health side near Bloomberg, there's a popular area called Fells Point that people tend to go out and just to see for yourself. There's a lot of neighborhoods. Access here from being at Hopkins.
Well, let's talk a bit about that a little bit. So, what's it like living in Baltimore? Baltimore is a it's a big East Coast city. What's it like being here?
You get to experience 4 seasons. So personally, I'm from California, so I experienced summer my entire life. And it's really beautiful here, especially in the fall and the spring. So those of you who are not used to the East Coast, I would definitely recommend it.
Yep.
Yeah. Good. I came from New York. I've been here for almost 4.5 years, and I love Baltimore. I love how there's such easy access everywhere. There's this free bus that Andrea was talking about that brings you everywhere basically in the city. And it's not such a big city like New York where it's always crowded and busy and rushed. It's a more relaxed city where you can really like sit down, enjoy a good meal, hang out with some friends. It's just a very positive vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, I sometimes hear people talking about small-to-more, in the sense that in Baltimore, it sometimes feels like a small town.
Yeah, but you still are close to like the big city attractions and stuff like that, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I live in Mount Vernon, which is one of the neighborhoods that Andrea mentioned. And so I grew up in a very small town, and I wanted to live in a more urban environment without potentially being overwhelmed. And so Baltimore was a nice transition into a medium-sized city I live on the 10th floor of an apartment and look downtown, and so it's a beautiful city view. But then I can take the free shuttle to campus, and it takes like 10 minutes. And so I really like that about it. I think, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do in Baltimore, which I really enjoy about it. And yeah, and there's a lot of great restaurants. So if you really like a specific ethnic cuisine, so like Indian, Thai, like Vietnamese, all those kind of restaurants are here.
Yeah. I'd also add that I think that Baltimore is it's a relatively, compared to New York and DC, it's a relatively cheap place to live too. That, you can, the cost of living here is really relatively affordable compared to other places. And I think that means that, that living as a graduate student, you can enjoy a higher quality of life perhaps than you would in places where your rent is going to be 3 times as much as it would be here in Baltimore. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, here's a couple of other neighborhoods around here. Charles Village is like just to the east of campus. Lots of row homes and lots of students living around there. And then Hampton, a neighborhood just to the west of campus, which has a very interesting street called The Avenue. It also has one of the most extraordinary Christmas lights displays on 36th Street that I've ever seen. Have you guys gone to see the Christmas lights display on 36th Street?
Yeah.
And the interesting things that happen there on New Year's Eve. Very, very cool neighborhood. Very, very interesting. Anyway, okay, so, here are 4 of our students. They're going to go on to do great things once they graduate. Where do students go is one of the questions that we often get asked. And, they go everywhere. They go into industry, into major engineering firms, into all sorts of industry sort of settings. We also, a lot of our graduate students go on to academia. We are a top-tier research university, and a lot of the students that come here are aiming either to get into PhD programs here or elsewhere, and many of our PhD students go on to faculty placements across the country and around the world. And we have strong connections to government agencies, either the Department of Energy, National Labs, the EPA, the Food and Drug Administration, US Geological Survey, OSHA, and all sorts of others. Thank you for everyone for attending today and listening. If you'd like to see a list of all our graduate programs and links to the respective programs and contacts and application info, please go to this website, ehe.jhu.edu/graduate, and that will get you everything you need. As I said, my name is Kieran Harmon. There's my contact detail there if you'd like to get in touch. There's our student panel if you'd like to get in touch with them. But if you'd like some specific information about how to apply or anything you've heard about today, if you're interested in the engineering side, you can contact Adina Rojas. If you're interested in the public health side, you can contact Katie Phillips at those addresses there. Okay, thank you all very much, and have a great day. We'll look forward to seeing you when you come.